or a dream? I used to read Word Up magazine, and now all I do is daydream. Know what I mean?
The questions that I receive is, LaDale, how do I get into those rooms? Well, this interview series is just for you. So welcome to the room.
We on now, we on now. They respect us cause we on now, we on now. Money up, run a whole town, don't we? This power money can't slow down, money won't slow down. Ooh, we doing a lot. How we got on top, how we got on the top. Network and hustle.
What's good, y'all? It's your partner back in the saddle again, guys, for another edition of the Countermove podcast, the interview series, guys. And I got a really special guest here, a good friend of mine, guys, and doing this since it's election season, guys. I got to bring somebody that can bring the heat into this thing, man, to be the inaugural person for 2024. Guys, some of you guys may know him. Some of you guys are probably seen him for the first time, but this is my man, Joe Collins. Joe Collins, man, how you doing, brother? You doing all right, man?
Yeah, what's up, man? I'm blessed. How are you?
Man, doing fine, man. Thanks so much for making the time, brother, just to sit down and chat out with me, man. This is live stream. So ain't no editing going on, guys. This is unedited. This is live stream. A little bit something new. But guys, let's dive into this thing. Where I want to make sure I respect your time, Joe, and as well as the audience's time, Joe. Let's begin here, man. Who is Joe Collins?
I am he. Those are my pronouns. Is he or that guy? You know, one of them works, but nah. I'm a U.S. Navy veteran. I served 13 and a half years in the Navy. I actually got out to get involved in politics. Originally, I'm from South Central Los Angeles, born semi-raised. My mom moved us to Texas in '99, right outside Dallas, to get away from gang violence, and so did high school here in Texas. Joined the Navy in 2004, got out the end of 2017 actually to get involved in politics. And that was a whole ordeal in itself, but ran against Maxine Waters in the 2020 election cycle. We did really, really well that cycle. I don't think the election turned out how we wanted to for various reasons. One of the big reasons is because California has the huge mail-in ballots, and so we had tons and tons of people voting who have never voted before. But when you look at the numbers say that if we got the numbers that we had gotten minus 1,000 votes or two, then we should have won that election actually. But, you know, Maxine Waters was able to rip off more votes than she's ever gotten in her entire lifetime. However,
sure,
I say we won because during that election cycle, we registered over 50,000 new Republicans, something that has never been done.
Wow.
What would be considered a Democrat stronghold. Dead serious. We did it through food drives, hiring fairs, community engagement. You know, we supported a lot of communities, a lot of community events and community organizations. We raised $10.6 million. So we were able to do that type of stuff. And then plus it was during the COVID shutdown, and we know what's happening in California. Everybody is struggling regardless of your political party affiliations.
Yeah.
So it made it a lot easier for us to be able to register the people who we registered and become the leader that people was looking for. And I still have people asking me, hey, you going to run against Maxine Waters again? And I'm like, nah, baby, I moved to Texas. I came back to Dallas. I ran against Ted Lieu in 2022. That election cycle was a little bit weird because we were getting over COVID. We still did fairly well during that election cycle with voter registration, but we already knew the type of games that they were going to play in California. But moved back to Texas. Now I'm in Plano. You know, the question came up on if I would consider running an HD 70. And I took some time to consider it. And then I was like, you know what? I'll run if I can get the support because we'll have to do the same thing in California that we did. We have to do the same thing here in Texas that we did in California when it comes to the food drives, voter registration drives, hiring fairs, and toiletry giveaways, and just be the leader in the community and support the community organizations that are doing their best to support the communities without the help of a government. But I mean, here I am. I'm back.
Hey, my man Joe is back, man. Man, Joe, most everybody knows Joe, the politician, but you're also a businessman. If you could kind of educate the masses on Joe Collins, the businessman, what do you do?
Yeah, so Joe Collins, the businessman, that's a part of me that nobody really knows about. People think that I live off campaign money or whatever the case may be, but that's never been the case. I own a government contracting company. It's called JT Acquisitions. I actually started the government contracting company back in 2015. And so we fill acquisitions from the government, everything from products to services to construction projects. So anything that we're able to service for the federal government, that is what we do. We make pretty good money. We've been making pretty good money from that, and also I'm retired. I'm medically retired from the military right now. I have a separated spine, so even if I wanted to go back to the military, I couldn't do it. But in a nutshell, that's what I do. And right now, I'm even teaching my children government contract. And my oldest daughter, she's on board with it. I'm trying to teach her the ropes, and so get her involved early. She's a junior in high school. Extremely proud of her. She has her own business as well. So
Good stuff, guys. But man, you guys have now met Joe Collins, the businessman, because everybody knows him just as the politician. So, man,
yeah,
you've been on TV, man. You've been on Fox News, you've been on Fox Business, Newsmax, I think News Nation as well, man. You've been on a lot, man.
News Nation. Yeah.
How have you been? How have you been able to go in so many media platforms because they really want to hear from Joe Collins on certain topics?
I just been extremely blessed. I think one of the biggest things about me that people don't know is although I'm extremely straightforward,
Sure.
I'm always honest with my opinion. And at the end of the
Okay.
day, you can be upset, but you still have to respect the honesty. One thing that separates me from a lot of people is I've always been consistent with my message. I am a conservative Republican, a Republican with conservative values. And the reason why I'm a Republican is because the first Black man in politics were Republican back in the 1850s from Hiram Rebels on and so forth. And so people don't really understand that. So it's not where the party is today, it's where the party came from. And I respect that. I've always stood tall for the Black community when it comes to doing things to provide resources or values for my community, creating legislation or assisting in the creation of legislation that's going to improve the quality of life for the Black community, because we need representation as well. And I think one thing that a lot of people do not understand is that you cannot just have Democrats representing the Black community, because then when you have something pertinent that comes up, you can't get those bills passed. So you do need the same amount of Democrats in office as you need Republicans. However, the Republican message does not really bode well in the Black community, because it's easy to pick yourself up by your bootstraps if you have straps for your boots. But if you don't have straps for your boots, then we have to go back down to base one. And that's how can we improve the quality of education for our schools in the inner cities? How can we bring more businesses back? And how can we create infrastructure or rebuilding in the inner city without people thinking that they're being displaced?
Yeah, man, that's good, man. That's good, man. I kind of agree with you a little bit. People kind of get shocked at me when I talk, and they said, "Do you talk to Democrats?" I'm like, "Of course,
Absolutely.
of course," because you have some sane Democrats and you have sane Republicans as well, also insane independents. Well, you and I kind of don't like those extreme factions, so to speak. We want people to have access to have common sense. Now, Joe, something actually happened early on, brother.
Yeah.
The first kind of the end of last quarter, that's when the kind of election season kind of really began a little bit, man. Man, you want to talk about it, man? Talk to people. What's going on?
Yeah. I got arrested. Period, point blank. Got into it with my daughter's mom, and I think the situation got blown out of proportion. It got blown out way bigger than what it really was. But we got into it, and I ended up, putting her out after the whole entire aftermath, and then the police came to the door, and we had a bit of an exchange because I didn't feel that it was necessary for them to come into my apartment, even though they went to do a wellness check. Plus, there is no laws that say that I have to let them in. But when I finally opened the door, they arrested me. They took me to jail, booked me. And, the case is, I mean, it's still the case. Nothing has really happened with the case. Nothing really transpired. But that's basically what happened. I think since that has happened, the majority of people, although they still trust me, they look at me a little differently,
Sure.
which, I don't really understand because, for this isn't the first time I've been arrested for something that I didn't do. For overblown situation. I actually got arrested when I was in the military, and we'll talk about that.
Sure.
But for me, as a Black man in America, not even to bring race in the situation, but it always feels like we're guilty until proven innocent, where you have other guys who are innocent until proven guilty. And I'll take our, Attorney General for example. He was accused of something, and everybody had his back and said that he was innocent. until he was actually proven innocent. Now, in this case, people are like, they're on the fence. Well, is he guilty or is he innocent? Even though nothing really, the case didn't even go anywhere. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just really confused by that. But
Sure.
I mean, I can say that I do understand. I do understand. However, it's not something that's about to stop me from accomplishing goals, not just for myself, but the state of Texas and the people
Sure.
of America.
Good
When
stuff,
I
man.
got arrested and when I was in the military, I was in Oklahoma, and I got arrested because I had a bunch of junior sailors. They were having a get together, and when I pulled up, the police was arresting the junior sailors, and I was trying to talk to the police like, "Yo, these guys work for me. What did they do?" And I'm getting arrested for interfering with an arrest, and that case was dropped as well. I filed a bunch of complaints against the officer because it was excessive. They're body slamming people on the ground and trying to make people to be
Hmm.
out the criminals. Come to find out, the only thing they did was jump in the swimming pool after the apartment pool was closed. So this is something that we go through a lot in
Sure.
America, and this is something that a lot of, unfortunately, white conservatives really don't understand when it comes to being Black in America, or when it comes to issues that we have in the Black community, social issues, especially the extreme disconnect between law enforcement and the Black community. But this is
Sure.
something that we have the ability to work on. This is something that we need to start talking about, actually, and it's something that people need to start understanding, not from their perspective, but from the perspective of the people who are actually going through these situations.
I agree. Good tradition. Now, I gotta ask you this question.
Mhm.
Yeah, there was an arrest. Man, what did you learn from that whole exchange that you can actually build upon?
um, you don't have to let the police in your house, regardless
Mm,
of what they say. You really don't have to. I think that was probably the only lesson there to be learned. Regardless if they're there to protect and serve, you could be the victim and still go to jail. You can be the person who's doing the accosting and still go to jail. In this situation, I mean, I got beat up. I got beat up pretty bad. I was scratched up and
mm,
everything, and I think that what they did was extremely excessive. It was extremely excessive, especially if the person is no longer there. Like, why are you here?
mm,
But
mhm.
I don't know. Lessons are still being learned. I think
Sure.
it's an experience that I'm gonna have. That I'm gonna talk about for a long time.
Sure. No problem with it at all, man. Well, man, thanks for your transparency,
Mhm.
talking about it, man, because some folks will run from it. You didn't. And you dove right into it,
Yeah,
man. That's what's up, man. Now let's
always.
let's dive into some issues real fast. You're running for the Texas House District 70, right?
Yep.
And so that is a very interesting district because the guys I ran for that as well in 2020. So I'm very familiar with this district. It's a different type of district. It actually leans more Democrat. Am I right?
It does now. Yeah.
It does. I like that. I like that. So, what are the top three issues that are important to the constituents of District 70 that you've learned?
Issues that are important to the constituents of District 70. The first one have to be economic development, in the sense of
Mm,
having that support there for entrepreneurs and small businesses, and being able to create infrastructures to move major companies in there. I think one thing that nobody's talking about is the influx of young people who are starting families that are moving to the Plano, Allen, McKinney area. And
mm,
so, the need for growth is there, and it has to be rapid growth. It has to be fast growth, but it has to be sustainable as well. So I'll say economic development. The second thing will be education. I mean, everybody who graduates high school isn't going to go to college. Everybody who goes to college is not going to go to high school. I mean, is not going to graduate college. And so we have to be able to put STEM programs and trade programs back into these schools, so we can create an avenue for people who don't plan on going to college to still be able to be a successful,
sure.
a productive adult in our community, in our society, be leaders, and be able to have that experience to pull the younger people back and say, you know what, if you don't plan on going to college, this is what I did.
That's right.
I took a trade. Now I have a trade. I own my own business because we have the resources
Mm,
there that's going to support small business.
mm,
Um, and then I think the third thing would have to be energy. Off
okay.
top, I think with the increased cost of energy right now, we really have to. The Texas government really has to put more money into research and development into
Hmm.
all forms of energy, not just natural gas and oil, but renewable energy, nuclear energy. These things are extremely important. On my website, joecollinsfortexas.com, I go into detail on how public-private partnerships will work
Mm,
within these aspects of the initiatives that I feel is important to the community, that the community feel is important, and initiatives that are important to supporting the success of Texas.
That sounds good, man. That's good stuff, man. I hope District 70 constituents, I hope you listen to it because he actually gave you guys a little bit of a dissertation of what's been communicated to him by some constituents. So let's dive into some stuff real fast, man. Border security. We in Texas. Texas
Yep.
is getting hammered right now at Texas border, brother. I'm pretty sure you've gotten some dialogue from a lot of the constituents concerning this issue, man. What do you see as the problem, right? And what's the solution that you think that from the Texas House seat you can actually fix?
Well, the problem is the Biden administration. When Joe Biden and Kamala Harris was running for office, they wanted to paint this picture as if America could support every single illegal immigrant that came across the
Mm,
border. Although it sounds nice, the reality is we can't. And so the problem is the Biden administration. We have to put our foot down when we say, stay in your hometown. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? Don't come across the border. If you do, do it the right way. Sneaking across the border is not the same as seeking asylum or going through the legal process of getting a green card or citizenship or work visa, school visa to come here. What we can do as far as Texas government is we again public-private partnerships. We can invest in technologies, aerial technologies that will be able to track and detect our entire border. We can actually hire more border securities. I think that'll be great. It'll bring more jobs to Texas. We can also build more infrastructure um, along the border. That's going to be a great advantage as well. Some people think the wall is the end all be all and it's going to stop everything, but that's not necessarily true. I mean, constant monitoring and surveillance across our border is really what's going to help that. And again, if you go to my website, joecollinsfortexas.com, I really go into detail on how I think that the border policy as well as the immigration policies can be improved. I mean, we have laws that are in place. We just have to streamline those laws to ensure that people aren't getting caught at the border, released into our country 10 years later, 20 years later, finally coming back for a hearing and decide if they can stay in our country. By then, it's too late. We have a lot of people that are coming across the border who want to get involved in American
yeah.
society, be productive taxpayers, and I think they should have that right if they want to become taxpayers. We also have a lot of criminals that are coming across the border as well. We can't be naive to that fact, and we have to be able to catch those guys and send them back to wherever they came from. But also, I think one of the most important things is this is where the United States in itself is missing the mark. If
Okay.
you have a bunch of people coming from other countries to America and they saying we don't have jobs, we don't have infrastructure, we don't have housing, we don't have money, I think it would behoove the United States to go to those countries, create infrastructure, create jobs, bring companies, bring finance, bring that relief that they're looking for, and that will really mitigate the majority of the issues. And then you won't even have to have a border wall. But we just got to think, we got to be practical or pragmatic with our solutions, and that's what we're not doing.
Okay, so I hear a lot of federal stuff, which is great. What can because as you know, the Supreme Court has said that the
Mhm.
federal government or the executive branch, so to speak, is the basically the arbiter of the border. And
Yep.
so, whenever Texas tries to defend its border, because of course Texas has a sovereignty issue going on right now, what can the Texas House do in concert with the Texas Senate and the governor? So, whenever the federal partner is not doing their job, which is federal government, how can we protect ourselves and walk in our sovereign right?
See, one thing, that's a really good question, and that's a question nobody ever asks. One
Sure.
thing that the governor of Texas, as well as the Texas House, has the ability to do, and that's create bilateral agreements with neighboring countries. They
Yep.
absolutely have that right, and I'll talk about that on my website as well. See, I think when it comes to this whole entire border issue, there's a lot of grandstanding that's going on and
Mm,
not really permanent solutions. I mean, like, how many times can you run buses and airplanes and send migrants to other places before
I
you actually
agree.
have to meet with the presidents or whoever in charge of these neighboring countries and create a solution to be able to solve this problem or mitigate the majority of the issue? And
Yeah.
that's what we're not seeing. Gavin Newsom did it. Gavin Newsom went to China. Gavin Newsom went to Mexico. So every individual state absolutely has the ability to create bilateral agreements. And I'll talk about that on my website as well. I don't go necessarily into detail because I still have to study. But from the premise, I know that can happen. And that's what we need to start doing. We need to think about that.
He's right about that, guys. And if you guys want to go visit his website, guys, you can scan on the QR code, go right to his website, guys. And what he's talking about, he goes into deeply detail of what this is. All right, guys. Let's move forward. Now, Joe, great dissertation on border security. I agree with that. I think right now it's a PR stunt going on right now, which I understand that you begin with that to grab the headlines, but you got to begin doing the work, which is negotiating with different. Um, countries, which is fine. Now let's go to economics and inflation. We both know there's a lot of inflation going on in this country, and it really began 3 years ago when the executive branch was changed. What do you think is the problem, and how can you? What solutions can you bring to the Texas House to help out the constituents of District 7 here?
Well, one of the biggest problems that we have is spending. We have a government that spends way more money than they can bring in, and that's how you cause inflations. If the spending outweighs the amount of revenue that you're bringing in, I think one way that we can fix the problem is remove and replace all of the older politicians who have been provocateurs of the United States spending.
Sure.
But on a Texas House level, one thing that we can do is we can improve infrastructure. I think the one industry that we can have and be the dominant factor is energy. I mean,
Okay.
Texas, along with Alaska, produces the most energy out of any state. And so we have to be able to create a pathway to again, invest in research and development on how we can extract energy safely, cleanly, effectively, but also utilize different forms of energy, nuclear
Correct.
energy, renewable energy, oil and gas. I mean, we can do this effectively, but we're not putting in the money for research and development. Mind you, Texas is not running the deficit like
Yeah.
California is. But if we want to be successful in the future, if we want to have this continued long-term success, we're going to have to start investing in research and development. Not only will it bring in more jobs, but it'll give us the information that we need to be able to produce the energy that we need. That'll lower costs and lower taxes. We can use the revenue from the energy industry to be able to fund a lot of projects instead of taxing taxpayers or creating state bonds that will again come from taxpayers' money over time.
I agree. I agree with that, man. So what you're saying is, what I'm hearing you talking about is tap into the assets that we already have and begin to monetize them. Is what I'm hearing when it comes to building
You,
infrastructure?
you actually you have to. There is no way to not do that. We need more refineries. That we need more mining plants. We need to do offshore drilling, and we absolutely have the capability of doing that. More research and development. We need all of that stuff.
I agree, man. Let's dive right into, again, if you guys want to go into a little bit more detail about who Joe Collins is, what he's standing on, again, scan on the QR code, go right to the website. It's right there, guys. Now, let's keep going, Joe, real quickly, man. I want to make sure I respect your time. Now, you really begin talking about energy independence, which is good. How can I know we can tap into our energy reserves, because really Texas is swimming in natural gas. We're swimming in it. What can Texas do better to begin to harness the power of our energy here?
Educate themselves. Literally educate
Explain.
themselves.
Explain.
Once a year, the major energy company, they get together and they discuss how energy is going to be affected in the future. Now,
Okay.
we can take these reports and we can utilize these reports to influence where we put our funding at when it comes to research and development. But we
Yeah.
can't do it if people are not educated. One of the
Agree.
biggest things that I hate seeing is how when people talk about energy, they always stick to oil and gas. Oil and
Agree.
gas is great, but what is the energy company saying? Exxon is saying, yes, we have oil and gas, but we have to have more funding so we can put into research and development because we have to eventually switch over to some form of nuclear or renewable energies that's not going to
Okay.
hamper the planet in the future. And by far, I'm not an environmentalist or anything. I have a degree in accounting, but it makes sense. You know what I'm saying? You use up all the resources that you have. When you run out, then you start trying to put money into research and development. But we have to start being proactive about the solutions that we plan on implementing in the future. And the only way we can do that is by educating ourselves and ensuring that everyone else is educated.
I understand that, but where's the money going to come from? Because we just spoke about economics and inflation. We talk about there's too much spending. Where the money coming from to make those investments?
Well, we got to take the gloves off when it comes to the energy industry. The energy industry is one of the biggest industries that we have. The tax
Agree.
revenue from energy by itself could fund its own research and development. We take the
Okay.
energy, we sell the energy back to the federal government. We sell the energy to our international partners. The taxes from the
Okay.
revenue could absolutely fund it. We don't even need to tax taxpayers for this. This is just
Hmm.
it's simple. I mean, when you look at other countries like
Interesting.
Saudi Arabia
Okay.
has a huge they literally thrive off energy. And look at what they've been able to accomplish so far. We can
Yeah.
adopt that same model without the monarchy. We can adopt that same model, and we
Agree.
and we literally
Okay.
we can do this. It's extremely possible. Everybody knows it's
Interesting.
possible except for the legislators because they're not invested in anything outside of their own thought process.
Why is that?
I couldn't tell you. But what I do know is that we live in a society right now where Democrats and Republicans are arguing for the more superior ideas, and I think that's always a flawed methodology, especially when you're elected to service the people. Like you read any constitution, whether it's the Texas Constitution or the United States Constitution, it states that the government is implemented to be a benefit and protection for the people. Right now, the
Yeah.
government is not being a benefit for anybody, especially when you have to tax people for food. You tax people clothes. You tax people for gas. You tax people, for daycare, and then you tax their paychecks on the same token. So people are
Mhm.
getting taxed 2 or 3 times before they can even take their money home and enjoy it. That's not a benefit. That's a
No, it's
slave.
not.
And so
I agree.
we have to be able to reverse the damage that's done. I mean, look at California, and I say this all the time. Don't California taxes. What does that mean? Don't create an atmosphere to where the government is doing everything that it can to take care of the people by taxing the people, but not even being a benefit to the people. California is a mess right now, and Texas is headed that way. I went to Austin a couple of weeks ago, and Austin almost looked like Los Angeles. Homeless
He's right.
population is increasing. Even in Plano, I see homeless people under the freeways now.
He's
And I
right.
think it's ridiculous. But people are caught up on social issues. Well, let's do something for LGBTQ, or let's do something for this. Let's take money and put it on all these social issues. And it's great. We can do that, but we have to have the revenue first. We can't continue to kick the can down the road because our kids are going to be paying for that, just like we are paying for the decisions that our parents and grandparents
Uh-huh.
created when they voted for the politicians that we literally still have in office today.
I agree. There's taxes upon taxes upon taxes. You get if you go down, I call it the tax rabbit hole, so to speak. When you look at someone's paycheck and then to the living expenses, you're getting taxed 5, 6, 7, 8 times on the same dollar.
Hmm.
I mean, that's pretty ridiculous. And we understand that government makes money off of taxes. And so I agree with you when it comes to more financially astute politicians that can read an income statement and balance sheet, right, and have high integrity, can begin to think like businessmen transactionally, not ideology, but transactionally, to be able to come up with a plan to where you can make those investments, so to speak, or begin to sell our energy to get some revenue back. Stop taxing the people and begin to lend off the revenue. That's called business. I agree with you 100%
Absolutely.
on that one. Yeah, that looks good. Now, let me go back to border security real fast. The Texas governor and government legislature passed a law basically kind of saying that the state of Texas, if they catch you, right, and of course confirm that you're here illegally, they can export you. They can export you. Do you agree with that or disagree with that?
I think, like I said, I think it's grandstanding because
Oh,
they're legally they're literally buses, white buses coming across the border,
yeah.
dropping illegals off at the airport with a
Uh-huh.
folder, a clear folder, give them bags, and have a name tag, and they fly them all over the place. If they were actually serious about that policy, we wouldn't have no buses. Them buses will be taking people and turning them right back around and taking them back to the country that they came from.
Interesting.
So
So what?
so
Whoa.
it's
Okay,
it's
go
it's
ahead.
it's, it's, it's grandstanding. It's just, you can't tell me the sky is blue when it's clearly nighttime.
Yes, sir.
That doesn't work for me.
Interesting. Oh, okay. I like that approach. Is you saying that if this law has been enacted, why not turning the buses around and it's just exporting them,
Hmm.
deporting them? That makes total sense. Man, okay. I like that. I like that. Now, man, let's go to school choice. We know what's going on with what I call them the alphabet crew, right?
Yes.
And what they're doing is they're trying to indoctrinate the kids. That's why I'm a big proponent of school choice. Now, in Texas, Texas is very heavily, I would say, teacher union based, so to speak. I mean, they fund both sides of the aisle. Number one, are you a proponent of school choice, public school, or both?
I'm really a proponent of school choice
Hmm. Why is that?
because I understand that there are a lot of schools and poor communities that are failing, and they're failing these kids. I feel like parents should have the ability to take their students and put their students in schools where they feel like they're going to have the best opportunity or best chance to succeed. It's absolutely necessary. Now, I
Okay.
understand how taxes are supposed to pay for the schools and this, that, and the third. However, a lot of these poor communities, property taxes are extremely low. They're inundated with apartment
Agree.
buildings. So that's only
Agree.
one tax for, 30, 40 people who are living in an apartment building, or you have a
Yeah.
tax for a low income property. That's not enough to be able to sustain these schools.
Agree. Okay,
So
I
school
got you. So
choice is definitely a must.
So gotcha. And I got this from a friend of mine who is a Democrat actually, and you know him. He's actually from New Orleans. New Orleans is 95% school choice. And when I was running for office, he helped me actually craft my whole stance on school choice. And it was one of the most conservative that was running for the GOP primary. How are you going to, if school choice is the solution? And I agree. What is the solution for? I think he called it for. It's kind of like a log jam. Everybody kind of going to the same school, so to speak. So therefore, you
Mm.
leave the other schools out. What's the solution for that to not happen? If you school choice is what you want to stand upon.
Well, obviously, when you have school choice, you have to have quotas as well. You know what I'm saying?
Ah,
Everybody can't go to the same school, so you would have quotas. So you would have to be able to choose or decide what school you go to.
hmm, gotcha. That does make some sense. Now, what about those that actually want to still go to public school? How can school choice help out with that?
Well, school choice doesn't necessarily stop you from going to public schools. You just get to
Mm,
choose which public schools or charter schools or private schools that you want to go to. I think that voucher each student has from the state
mm.
government should follow that student wherever they go. However, I do think that the Texas government needs to do a better job of monitoring these schools, checks and balances, ensuring that the schools are adequately equipped, ensuring that we have teachers that actually care about the students. Like that's why, again, if you go to my website, joecollinsfortexas.com,
Mhm.
I talk about the most effective and efficient ways that we can invest into the schools, the education system. That's extremely important to me. One thing that we're going to need in Texas is a pipeline of productive adults to remain in our society, to be those leaders that we need, the next politicians, the next businessmen, the next educators, the next influencers, the next thought provocateurs. We need this in our society.
I agree. Let's go a little bit deeper when it comes to school choice.
Mm.
Okay. Now, what? Because you said the vouchers, which was fine. I agree with the vouchers as well. Also, my question is how are we going to pay for this new influx of kids going to these school choices, to the schools? In other words, typically the schools that are outside of the public school section, they really heavily depend upon um, investment from the parents. Now you have some charter schools, which is fine,
Mm.
and they get support from the state government. Would there be any mandates on those schools that are not charter schools to abide by said policies for the state for them to get the funding or not?
I think in those instances, if the children want to go to charter schools and the charter schools or private schools or whatever, they have their own set of rules. If that's the school you want to go to, then you would have to abide by those rules. Just because
Mm,
your kids could go to that school, it doesn't give you some type of authority or special privilege to be able to utilize other resources to be able to send your kids to that school. School choice, the key word in that is choice. You have the choice or the option to send your kids to that school, but whatever comes along with that, that's on you. Just like buying a car, you have the credit to be able to purchase the car. The interest rate is your interest rate on that loan. You're gonna have to pay
sure,
it outside
makes
of the actual note.
makes sense. I'm rocking with you now. A little bit deeper on school choice. Now, I had the pleasure of sitting down and talking with Lieutenant
Mm,
Governor Dan Patrick for 20 minutes about this subject of school choice. And he said he said that the school choice bill passes easily in the Senate. It goes to die in the House. He
mm,
let me know why. It was because of the teachers' charters was well. And I asked him why again do just go to die in the House. He said, well, because really 5% of the state, which is let's say rural schools, are holding 95% of the state hostage because Houston is a major metropolitan area. The mayor actually wants school choice. Dallas, the same thing. These major areas want school choice. How are you going to begin to negotiate in a way? This is the businessman, Joe Collins, to really get those
yeah.
rural schools off of the sideline and say, get into school choice.
Mhm. Well, I think that in order to apply pressure, you got to find out where the pressure needs to be applied at. A lot of time
Hmm.
when we talk about school choice, we only think about the children, but we never think about the educators. Now,
Hmm.
one thing that we're going to have to do when it comes to school choice, we're going to have to increase teacher salaries. I think that needs to be done
Ooh,
anyway. I
I
think
like
teachers are the
that.
most underpaid people
Amen.
in the entire world. I mean, their salary barely meets the cost of living. Even if they add COLA, even if they give them the 13th payment at the end of the year to make up for the cost of living adjustment,
Agree.
it doesn't pass the muster.
Agree.
Whenever I ran for Congress in 2020, I proposed in my education plan a 25% increase for educators. And that's not including the COLA. That's just the increase in teacher salary, because I don't believe that teachers should have to go to work and then work overtime and then work overtime programs at the school just to make enough to make ends meet. I
He's
feel
right.
like they should have a standard of living pay just like everybody else. I don't think what's going on is fair. So you're going to have to meet that dynamics of increase in teacher salaries in order for the teachers to get on board and tell people, you know what, maybe we could do maybe we could do school choice, because now we have the pay, we're not overworked, our classroom sizes are optimal, and we can deal with it. But how can you tell a educator who's struggling to pay her bills, okay, you're going to have a more influx of teachers, so now you got to work two over school programs, overtime programs, in order to make your ends meet? I just don't think it's fair. Everything has to be a give and take. In this one, I think it's a
I
give and
got
give.
you. So
Mhm.
how are you going to negotiate with the unions, because they have a stronghold on this in this area?
Yeah, I believe that the unions all have a website. I think on the website they have a list of demands, from what I understand. And I think I don't think what the unions are asking for is unreasonable. Smaller classroom sizes, more
Okay.
investments in tech and trade, increased teacher salaries. I
Okay.
don't think that's unreasonable. I think that's optimal. I actually think that's kind of normal. Now, what's not productive is when people say, you know what, we're not going to give you what you want, and then we're going to make you fight for it. Like, why? People have the right to be a part of unions. Unions have the ability to collective bargain. Unions also have the ability to fund the candidates that they want, who's gonna work towards the best interest. I believe that the people who are part of the unions are educators. Educators are underpaid. They have to work
Yeah.
4 or 5 times over. My mother's an
Yeah.
educator. That's why
Yeah.
I'm passionate about it.
Yeah.
It needs to be increased.
I like that. I like that. I like that you actually understand what's important to the unions, because they actually have a stronghold both in the Senate and
Mhm.
the House as well, and also when it comes to the governorship as well. Also, so that's pretty good, man. Man, Joe, man, you had a lot of points today, man. Let me ask you this one last question, man. Again, thank you for your time, brother. Why are you the best candidate to represent the constituents of District 70?
I wouldn't say I'm the best candidate. I don't want anybody to think that I think that I'm better than anybody else. However, when it comes to fighting, I've done that my entire life. I fought to get out of
Mm,
South Central Los Angeles. Fought while I was in the military, Operation Iraqi Freedom 2008. I fought there. Fought against Democrats. I registered 50,000 new Republicans in a Democrat stronghold. Fought against Maxine Waters. Fighting is what I do, and I've become pretty damn good at it. Um, but even when it comes to experience in campaigning, experience in business, experience in working with legislators, I work with the mayor of Los Angeles to create oversight programs for the police force to rebuild that relationship between law
mhm,
enforcement and communities. Having a level head, not being somebody who is a trust fund baby who
mhm,
just jumps in
mhm.
politics because I'm a Republican and I hate Democrats. It's more than just that. You have to have the wherewithal. You have to have some type of sense in order to be able to create value for people who are living in your district, create value for people who are in America, be diplomatic when it comes to your approach in solving solutions with people who are of the opposing party.
Yeah, that makes it, and that's wonderful. But most politicians, when people hear he's a politician, the first thing is I don't trust him. Why
That's
should you
true.
know what I'm saying? Be honest with you. My question is, why should they trust you?
You know what? They shouldn't. This is what they need to do.
Ah,
Elect me and see what I do. See the type of work. If I can get my initiatives pushed through, if I can create a better quality of life for you, then elect me for another 2 years. And
hmm.
if I can continue to meet the demands of the people and continue to bring value and quality, elect me again. Now, if I run for a higher position and I continue to meet the demands of the people and continue to bring quality, elect me again. I don't want people to trust me. I want people to challenge me.
Gotcha. But you're asking them to vote for you first before they trust
Mhm.
you. Now, before they give you the vote, why should they trust you now and put you in the seat?
Because the person who they voted for last time is focused on social issues. They're not focused on economic
Ooh.
development. They're not focused on putting money in your pockets. They're not focused on ensuring that your small business is going to thrive. They're not focused on ensuring that you got enough money after taxes to be able to buy food. They're not focused on whether you got enough gas in your car. They're not even focused enough to understand if you have the right type of car. They want you to have electric vehicles. If you want to keep your current vehicle, go
Mm.
for it. They don't care about if the government is taking control of your life. They don't care if the government is mandating what you do with your life. They don't care that the fact that the government was there to be a benefit for and safety for the people. They care about pushing their own agenda, and agenda is not the agenda of the people. Although it sounds good, oh yeah, social this, social that. But when you have to put gas in your car, when you have to pay for daycare, when you got to go to work and you look at the amount of taxes that's coming out your check, when it's time to pay that rent, when it's time to pay that mortgage, when you miss a mortgage payment, when you miss a credit card payment, when you run out of credit card securities, then what are you going to do? We have to start being proactive in our solutions. The person who is in office, she's had 2 years to do it. She hasn't done anything. She hasn't even taken care of the schools. Our schools in Plano are suffering. We don't have enough revenue from property taxes to even take care of our schools in Plano. Think about your children.
He's right. He's right about that, guy. So what you're saying is you bringing your solutions oriented versus culture narrated, correct?
Absolutely. Like Dan Pena said, you could take care of the entire world, but you got to get the money first. And that's what we're not doing. We're not getting the money.
Hey, get that bag. Yes, sir. Well, Joe, man, thank you so much for your time, brother. Again, guys, if you want to support Joe, number one, or number two, you want to learn more about him before you support him, just go to scan on this QR code. Very simple. Takes you right to his website. Go check him out. See what it's about. Vet him. Challenge him, as you said. I've never heard a politician say challenge me. I've only seen politicians run. He ain't running. He ain't running at all.
There is
running.
nowhere to run. There is nowhere. You can find anybody anywhere you want to. Social media. You can find them out in the communities. You can find them in Austin. You can find them in Washington, D.C. There is nowhere to run. You might as well face these solutions, face the tough questions. But at the end of the day, I actually listen to people and we create solutions based on what the people want. You can go look at my farmers initiative. That's when I'm talking to farmers. Look at my energy initiative. That's when I'm talking to energy companies. Look at my infrastructure initiatives. That's from looking at the plans that they have in Austin to rebuild and actually talking to construction companies and investment companies and finding out the best way to move forward.
Yes, sir. Yes,
and
sir.
It's all on my website, joecollinsfortexas.com.
There it is, y'all. Man, that's a great way to end it, guys. Again, if you want to learn more about Joe, scan on the QR code, guys, and go right to it, man. Joe, man, thank you so much for the time, man. I know that he came right out of a meeting, guys, to this interview, man. So, again, Joe, thank you so much for your time. God bless you, guys. Hey, guys, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Joe. Joe, if you could, man, give them your social media handles at all, period, because some people may not be on YouTube, they may be on Instagram. Where can they find you at?
You can find me on all social media platforms at Joe E. Collins, number 3. Joe E. Collins, and number 3.
That's it, guys. With Joe, man, thank you so much for your time. God bless you, guys. I'll see you next time on the interview series for the Countermove podcast, guys. Thank you so much for your time. God bless you, guys. Peace.